Happy New Year.
Happy 2021. See, I've mentally decided that we're live. The challenges of last year simply don't exist. And my whole mindset this year is simply one of let's go be successful and function within whatever framework we have to function. So hopefully we can follow through on that and get back to not being surprised and just being awesome, because that's what we do.
Yeah, and with the fact that it's a new year, being awesome is all we can be right now.
Right? Why would you want to be any other way? If you have a choice to be awesome, take it.
I mean, again, like we talked when we had our show on Monday with Skillz executives. A lot of times because of the situations that we're in, we tend to have a different approach and a different look on how we should do things. And I totally understand that. But at this moment, being awesome is the only way, is the one way.
All right. So we have an awesome new series of shows. This is, speaking of which, good segue. This is season 3 for us. This is our 3rd year doing this show. We're going to try a little bit different format this year and see how it goes. If you love it, let us know. If you hate it, keep it to yourself. You can let us know that too. We learned from Kelly that feedback is just feedback. It's not positive or negative. So what we want to do this year is be a little more mindful of your time. We're going to try to keep this to about half an hour. So if you're with us now, we'll try to have you out of here by noon or so Eastern time here. If you're listening in the car, hopefully your commute is no longer than half an hour, because otherwise that's sad. So today our topic is going to be one all about child development, because that's what Skillz does. We're going to touch a little bit on the topic of preschoolers. And John, I know this is a topic you're covering right now in the Certified Pediatric Ninja Specialist course. Enjoying the class so far. I have to jump into today's stuff still. But right now you're on early skills, the 3 and 4-year-olds. So I figured it was an appropriate topic for us to discuss.
Absolutely. It's such a sensitive age to work with, but it's an absolutely amazing group of kids to also work with. And a lot of people don't see it that way, but I think it's phenomenal to have an opportunity to work with kids at that age and be able to understand them. Let me see if I can say this right. To be able to understand what they go through cognitively, because that sets the pace for everything else.
Yeah, that understanding is key. Now, this is a very, let's be honest, this is a business here. It is a very lucrative age group to work with, because not a lot of people do it, and even fewer people do it well. So there's a great opportunity for us as business owners to have a great revenue stream. And we find that kids that join us at this age, if they make it past a certain point, tend to be our longest term students. We've had people who started at 2.5, 3 years old, and now they're with us and they're in extreme skills, going into elite skills. They've been with us for a very long time. They say in business there's only a few ways to make more money. It's to charge more often, or get more people. So we're having more people stay around. We're able to charge more because we do it well, and they're paying us more often just because they're a metric of them sticking around. From an educator's perspective, we also know that this is a wonderful age group to impact, because the things we do in early childhood development, like kindergarten, 1st grade and earlier, have lifelong impacts on people's views of who they are and how they define themselves. So if we could define them as martial artists or ninjas or whatever the terminology is used in your school, at a point in their life where they're figuring out who they are, they won't want to violate that, and they'll want to stay with us for a really long time.
And I think also it allows the parents to truly understand the concept, and that's where the longevity comes in.
Yeah, especially new parents, they're
Yes.
learning and they're open to things. So as we explain it at that early age group, we're also explaining it to the early parents and helping them craft who they are as parents. Which, now that you bring up adults, that brings us into our first challenge that I think a lot of people have when working with this age group, and it's one of mindset. And I think, John and I, we're in a lot of groups in the industry, and we see very often that there's the mindset of, I'm not a babysitter. I don't want to chase kids. I don't want to wipe noses. I don't want to change diapers. There's this mindset that working with those kids is only about money, and it's not about education, or it's not about martial arts, or whatever it is that we're doing. And I think when we can shift to, well, I'm an educator, that's huge for us.
Yes. It go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so what do you tell people when you're talking to them about maybe adding this program, or maybe even a parent who is a little leery about, like, well, you want me to pay all this money? What are you actually going to teach a 3-year-old? So how do you broach that topic and help them with that?
So let's just start with the first thing. Of course, I'm going to speak as a Skillz school, right? And make sure that everybody understands this. When it comes to parents and it comes to people who don't understand the concept behind why we do what we do, the first question I ask them is, what do kids like to do at that age? What's the only thing that kids like to do at that age? And the normal answer is they like play. They like to jump. They like to use their imagination when they're doing things, because that's exactly what happens at that age. And I tell them, great. In our classes, we do game-based learning, which allows them to learn things at a much faster pace, because when they're playing, they're happy. When they're happy, they're focused. When they're focused, they're learning a whole lot of development, whether it's, intellectual, emotional, social, or physical. So, and a lot of parents truly understand it right away. But also because we've set up our studio as a child development center, as soon as the parents walk in, they see it as an education center. And they see us using martial arts as a vehicle. Martial arts is not, the only thing that we do. And they definitely appreciate that. And especially when you educate your community well enough in advance, they come to you as the right leads, or the, what's the word? I'm sorry. There's a whole lot of CPNS information in my head right now.
Get a download, man.
Yeah, I got to purge so I can start getting the right words out. The qualified leads is what I'm trying to say.
I think it's also fair to say, maybe not with the parent, because by then it's maybe a little too late, but I think it's also fair to say that for some instructors, at least, that maybe you aren't the best person to teach 3 and 4-year-olds. It doesn't mean to you that it's just babysitting, but there are high school teachers and there are preschool teachers, and very rarely does a high school teacher or a college professor want to go and work at the local preschool. It's just not their calling, and that's okay. But I don't think a college professor or high school teacher would ever say, just don't go to kindergarten. Don't even start school until you get to 7th grade, because that's what I do, and it's the only thing that's valuable. I think it's important to recognize that even though it might not be your calling, it is still a very important phase of that child's learning experience. So changing our mindset, even if it's not to change my mindset about, hey, I'm going to teach 3-year-olds. For example, I personally don't like teaching 3 and 4-year-olds. I am not the right person for it. I can, but it's not me. I teach the older kids. And that's actually a fairly common split, I think. So just shifting your mindset to give you permission, to give yourself permission to see that age group as valuable is very important. And it could be the first step towards, okay, I do see the value. It's not just babysitting. How can I get involved? Or helping a parent who maybe has a 9-year-old coming to your school and the 3-year-old sibling is sitting there in the lobby. Mm-hmm. And now here's a built-in enrollment opportunity. Oh, Mrs. Johnson, did you know that we also do 3 and 4-year-olds? Wow, I didn't think that the child could start that young. Well, we actually started 18 months old in our mini Skillz program. And yep. It's sometimes just education that has to happen. We as educators should always be educating ourselves. John, I'm sure you're seeing as you're going through your CPNS course, you're probably learning 10 times as much as you're giving out. You have to filter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you mentioned like, I may not be the right person to teach the class, but it doesn't mean that I should just go, done. I'm not going to do it. Like, if the market is there and the opportunity is there, grab it. And then kind of like, everybody goes, Melody always says, what is it? Ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
Right. And everybody goes, does she mean ready, aim, fire? I'm like, no. She really means ready, fire, aim. Because, the way we see things right now is we're getting ready and we're just going to put it out there. Right. And then while we're out there, we're going to find the perfect way to put it in place. Right.
Yeah. This is not about being reckless. There's a method to the madness too.
Exactly. And it's because if I wait and I contemplate and I try to aim and I say, you know what? No, my grip is not right. No, this hand should be right here. No, the elbows need to be dropping. No, I need to be doing. There is so much, involved at the moment that you're probably going to go, nope, not doing it.
And that's a very poignant lesson in the times we're in. A lot of schools are still struggling. There are still areas of the country and the world that are locked down. Mm-hmm. Having an additional revenue stream, is so important. And, whereas maybe in the past it was, well, I only eat prime rib and lobster. Maybe it's time to eat spaghetti.
Ramen noodles tasted great in college.
And
we're here.
Yeah. So maybe 3 and 4-year-olds are not your favorite age group to teach, but maybe, having that extra revenue stream is going to be so helpful to your school. It is one of the easiest programs to fill because there's not much else out there for kids that age. And again, the things that are out there, not a lot of people do it well.
And just do the numbers. Like, again, sit down and say, okay, if I only have 5 students and I'm teaching them twice a week and it's 30 minutes long, if I hire somebody, for that window, I'm paying them an hour per week. That's 4 hours per month. Do the numbers, right? And that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to help you with. I'm going to be honest with you guys. At our studio, for a window during COVID, we taught 1 mini Skillz person for about 4 months. 1. And we were still making money. Now, it's not great money.
No.
But at the end of the month, it was still in a positive for the mini Skillz program. I'm talking about the mini Skillz program only, right? At the end of the month.
And then what's the long-term student value on them as they go now into early skills, basic,
like
black belt?
Her mom is like, there is no way I'll pull her out because she had seen her developmental skills in all 4 stages, has grown so much since she started a year ago. And now she's in the early skills. By the way, she hasn't turned 3 yet. Okay. So she's like, why would I pull her out?
So, as we look at this and as we talk about going from, a 3-year-old to somebody who's going to be an amazing black belt, it also starts to talk about our expectation of what a martial artist is. Even as I speak with adult instructors, as we do some of our coaching calls, you hear about, oh, well, students these days just aren't what they used to be, and nobody wants to train for real. We have these expectations that we set up of what somebody should be like or be able to do. And a lot of times that holds us back. So if you look at 3 and 4 year olds, using now we've investigated our mindset and maybe had some shifts about what it means to educate a 3 and 4 year old. We have to now moderate our expectation a little bit as to what's going to happen in that class. So very often, and I'm John, I'm sure you hear similar. I'm teaching 3 and 4 year olds. They just don't listen. They don't do what I tell them. I have to discipline them. I have to punish them. How do I get them to do what I want them to do? And I don't think that they, as a new early skill, or we'll say early skills, but even if you're not a skills member, as a new preschool instructor, you don't necessarily always have an awareness of what your expectations of a 3 and 4 year old should be. Not a black belt, but a child. And you don't necessarily have the best tools to convey the lessons in such a way that you will get the results that you want. And this goes, I think, into understanding stage of development. John, your lesson yesterday about kinesthetic and visual awareness in the CPNS course, I think really speaks to this. So how would you talk to, again, we'll look at it both ways, either an instructor who's struggling to get kids to participate or to have discipline or to be a martial artist, and also looking at maybe a parent who has unrealistic expectations where when we ask the kids to do something, knowing that it's not going to always happen, the parent is demanding and yelling from the sideline, pay attention or else.
Yep.
How do you start to moderate some of these expectations and coach both instructors and parents towards a more realistic outlook?
So, one of the things that I wish that would be out there right now is definitely, when it comes to childbirth, that kid would come out with a manual. That kid would come out with an instructions book. It's because the more we have dug into this, and now that we're teaching this course, I'm bringing this course in not necessarily from a early skills or basic skills, what happens at that age, because Melody did an amazing job putting together the stages of development. But the one thing that I try to do is bring the brain awareness to everybody. What's happening at that age? What are the kids thinking at that age? So one of the questions that I ask parents is, how many vocabulary words do you think your child knows at 3 years old? And the number that comes out of their mouth is astronomically high. They're like, I don't know, enough because they can understand me. I was like, can they really understand you? Because if they understand you and they're able to follow directions, you wouldn't be frustrated as much. The thing is, they only know about 250 words. They're just born. They've only been there for literally, if they just turned 3, they've only been there for 2 years alive, right?
An interesting point there is also that they may know 250 words. They don't always understand the concepts behind what those words convey. We just had a student the other day came in for an eval, and Heidi was telling me that the kid was a little rock star, came in, nailed the eval, and then the mom says, well, all right, little Johnny, do you want to do karate? And the kid said no. And then Heidi's asked, well, do you want to come back and play with me? And the child said yes. The child may know the word karate and have some vague idea of what it means to them, but maybe that child didn't relate what he just did to what mom asked. And I think this is where some of those expectations fall short.
So let's take that example real quick and have people look at it from 2 different perspectives, right? The first perspective is the comprehension of the words, right? Kids during that age, they are very in the downstairs brain. They're very down here. All they want to do is play. They want the fun activities. They want the basic stuff, right? And they relate to what's fun.
So do adults.
Yeah. And from this perspective, the mother asked the question in a way that the kid was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this. Because when Heidi said, you want to come back and play with me? He was like, yeah. He understood play. He didn't quite understand karate. He doesn't quite understand what karate really is, because at that moment, I don't think you guys did karate. At the moment it was game-based learning. It's a concept where you're asking kids to do certain things in a fun way, fun atmosphere, right? So they're paying attention to you, they're focused on you, because that's what game-based learning is.
Mm-hmm.
um,
I think, when we talk about expectation, it's also important to moderate a little bit what instructors expect of kids at this age group. So we're talking 3 and 4-year-olds. They still hopefully have strong attachments to their parents. I know one of the common questions I get about this age group is, how do I stop them from running off the floor? And, this is where we have to understand, just because we signed them up does not create this magical transformation in the child that in their first class, they're going to act like a black belt.
Yep.
It is within their stage of development to need that reinforcement from mom and dad. They don't have complete understanding of time or space. This is why games like peekaboo are so important to infants. They don't understand that sometimes when mom is not there, it doesn't mean she's never coming back. So they need that reinforcement to understand that things are okay. Over the course of a 2-year training program, our goal is to help the child feel comfortable being on the floor for an extended period of time. So when they move to the next program, I don't have to worry about that. For 3 and 4-year-olds, we actually embrace that. Go give mom a hug. Go give mom a high five. But then come right back. We're
so I'm glad you brought that up, because that's like an emotional, social emotional concept. You know what I mean? The emotional part is the connection with the parents, right? It's also part of the anxiety when they're first doing something that's new. Like, I want to do this, I want to have fun, right? But at the same time, I want to go back to mom and make sure that, she sees what I'm doing, right? Or maybe there is a sense of fear. Maybe there is a sense of uncertainty that's going on in their head at the moment. Going back to mom, connecting with mom, getting that hug from mom, helps them with that oxytocin in their brain to come back in and to do more, because mom is going to say, oh my gosh, you're doing great. Yeah.
Learning is stressful and promotes cortisol in the body, which
Yes.
is stress hormones. So that brief time of getting that oxytocin from mom and dad balances that out, so they are ready to come in for the next part. I think there's a misconception that we need kids to have confidence, so we push them out and force them to be in class, when actually that causes more anxiety. Whereas when they run to mom, that is actually them building confidence. Oh, mom is still here. Everything's okay. Wow, I was worried for nothing. Let me go be confident.
And keep in mind, like, especially if those kids have been home with mom and dad for the first 2 years of their life, and now they're 3 years old coming in, they don't understand any better.
Yep.
Okay. They may not have gone to daycares. A lot of people that come to us may not have necessarily done the daycare concept or the preschool concept or things of that sort, right? However, those kids who have done the preschool or the daycare concept, they're the ones who don't run back to mom and dad. So it just depends on the child and what's been happening in the past 2 years of their life. So don't just judge based on that one student or based on the whole. Don't have one student, make the decision for the entire crowd.
And really, and this is a nice segue into our third challenge here, understanding that when a child has this challenge, it's not how do I fix the child? It's how do I lead them to a point where they no longer have that challenge? That's our job. If they could already do it, wouldn't need us. So, as we start to look now at the unique challenges of teaching a child at this really wonderful stage of development, it's also important to look at our mindset and expectations as we look at curriculum. A lot of times schools will either try to teach their art. Now, I'm a Kung Fu guy, so our uniqueness is in our complexity. There is no way that a 3 and 4-year-old is doing, now, are there examples of kids who do? Yes. You can go to China and they beat the kids into submission until they do what they're supposed to do. And these kids grow up scarred mentally and physically. You can look at highly competitive kids in the United States where they do have probably healthier training methods. These kids are the anomalies, though. You don't have a class of 100 3-year-olds that can do this. You might have one or two, and usually you know them because they're on YouTube as, the example that we all look at. So I think it's important that, when you design a curriculum, you can't just say, I'm going to teach my art. It doesn't matter how old they are. And I think it also does a disservice if you just water it down. Well, we just play games and do some kicks and punches. There has to still be intention there. And the changes that you make should not just be because of ease of teaching, because that's about you as the instructor. It should be child-driven, understanding stage of development, understanding, what your short-term developmentally appropriate teaching goals are, and what are your long-term goals. My goal is not to get a full contact fighting 4-year-old. It's to get a 4-year-old who loves learning, who feels comfortable around me, who has the basic discipline skills, probably still needs some redirection to be able to function in a class where we teach some detail. That's all I'm doing. And my curriculum reinforces that. It's important for my curriculum to lead the kids to the skills with an S that they need to have in order to progress, not just teach them a bunch of techniques. Because at this age, it's probably a bit above the typical child stage of development. So of course, John and I are going to recommend early skills. If you're interested in teaching this age group, Skillz has memberships where it's just drills. If you're already doing your own thing, that's cool. You need some developmentally appropriate drills. There's a membership for that. If you want to run this program and nobody else is doing it in your area, you can sign up for just an early skills membership. Or of course, there's the Cadillac. You could go for the gold and run it across the board. So, John, let me ask you in our last couple minutes here, I know you are the kid whisperer. And whereas I prefer the older age group, you also do wonderfully with the younger kids. I've seen you work with them. What is your favorite thing about the early skills curriculum and how it lets you impact kids at this age group?
Oh my gosh. I'm gonna have to say they're just, oh my gosh, what's the word? They're so pure, right? And they're so innocent. And if you're able to understand them and understand how they think and what they want, and working with them becomes so easy. You know what I mean? Because I know what to expect and what not to expect from them, given the fact that they can grow and they can develop so fast, especially at that age. They grow so fast at that age. Working with them, for me, is just fun. I love that class.
Yeah, you get to see so much change in them over the course of sometimes even a class. It's that fast.
Yeah, and even like they come in crying because maybe they fell asleep in the car or something. It's so easy to turn them around real quick because I know what's happening at that moment. And parents are like, how do you do that? Well, because I understand how the brain development is. I understand what's happening internally up in here that I can turn it around real quick. And all I ask is one question. You want to play a game?
Yeah.
And tell me a kid at 3-year-old who's going to say no. I don't care how they feel.
So hopefully you never get a student named Matthew Broderick. You have to be a certain age to understand that movie reference. All right, so Tim asks, do you recommend having the parent on the mat with this age group or not? I personally recommend not. If they're not ready to work at least partially independently, that's where we bring them into the mini skills program, where we work on that confidence and that ability to work independently. Now, that said, I do highly recommend having the parents always present for this age group. So right now with COVID regulations, we have certain capacity issues in our school. So we simply don't allow parents. It's drop your kids and go. Except for early skills. I always want an early skills parent there. First of all, for potty issues. I am not taking a child to the bathroom, and it has nothing to do with, oh, well, I don't want to be a babysitter. I don't want that liability of being alone in such a situation. So for potty issues, for sure. But also because that child is not ready to be away from the parent. They do need the reinforcement from the parent But because our goal is to help them move away from that, having the parent on the mat with that specific goal in mind might not be the best thing. Now, that said, is it the worst thing to have the parent on the mat? No. You need some help in that class, bring the parents in. But I would not do it probably for the whole class. I would do it, hey, during the drills section, let's say, parents, could you come on the mat, hold the pads, something like that, with the goal being less and less and less parental interaction. John, what do you think about that?
Oh, I totally agree. Also, given the fact, kind of like we said earlier, unfortunately, 90% of the parents are not well educated on what to expect and what not to expect in the class. So the constant thing that's going to happen right now is pure cortisol, where the parent is like, stop, don't run around, don't do this, don't do that. And for us, it's okay. You know what I mean? So now the parent may be developing a negative concept in their head, or building that cortisol in the child's head of the constant nag.
That's a really good point. And we see it in mini Skillz a lot too, where the parents don't have the proper expectation. So instead of let's have fun learning how to follow mom, it turns into, well, now you're punished because you didn't follow me when Mr. Salama said to follow me and do what I said. So in mini Skillz, it's all about parent training as well. We're training the parents how to be better martial arts parents or better skills parents. By early Skillz, the kids are highly affected by words. So it's important for me to maintain a modicum of control of the mindset and the positivity of the environment.
And, I get it. A lot of instructors will say, well, I can take that time and to educate the parents along with me teaching the class. The class is 30 minutes long. You can only do so much in the class. So if you're going to talk to the parents about what to say and what not to say, those are like 3, 4 minutes, 5 minutes that are gone by the time you explain yourself to the parents of how they should handle things. Right?
And that's a lifetime to the 3-year-old. If you have to stop and explain, well, Mrs. Johnson, let me teach you the science and psychology behind what we're doing here. There goes little Johnny, and now you're back to step one, where you're saying, well, the kids never listen to me. How do I get them to do what I want? And an early Skillz class is essentially 7 mini classes, one within the next. You are running from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, so quickly.
Now, again, we're not saying it's not doable. So don't.
Yeah, sure.
Don't send me a nasty message like you said we should not do this, and I do this in my studio.
I know people that run their entire schools as family style, from 3-year-old to 36-year-old, and that's their class. And it works for them. It's just, what are your goals? And you have to kind of decide that before you go into that class environment, because otherwise you're going to not have the clearest direction.
But also, that's the age when they're ready to step in the real world. So I want to be able to prepare them the right way. In a safe environment, exactly. In a nurturing environment.
We hope.
Yeah, we hope.
All right. So if you guys are not running a 3 or 4-year-old program, we do highly encourage it. It can be done online. There are some considerations with that as well, but you can successfully run 3 and 4-year-old classes online. You can, because of the smaller ratios, a lot of schools are thriving with the 3 and 4-year-old program, because they're able to still hold a full class and meet capacity requirements. So it's a great program. If you need help with it, please reach out. If you're running an early Skillz program and you want to take it to the next level, let us know. If you're not running a 3 and 4-year-old program, but you are interested, hit us up. You can message us right here on Facebook, either through the page, or hit John and I individually. And we will definitely chat with some of the pros and cons of whether this is a right fit for your school. All right. How do we do? 34 minutes we're in. Oh, man.
Nice.
Almost. We're there. I think we'll refine that now. All right, guys. So Happy New Year again. Please examine your mindset, your expectations, and your curriculum, and see how this can work for you. And if you have questions, let us know. Otherwise, we will see you guys next week with another great topic in child development and the business of running a children's development center.
Yep. Awesome, guys. Go crush your week, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I'll catch you later, Mr. Salama.
Take care, bud.